Hey, thank you for joining me. This is Make It Good, and my name's Alex. If you're anything like me, and I suspect if you've clicked on this video, you may be a fan of not only the Criterion collection, but also physical media in general. I wanted to do a quick video of how I got back into collecting physical media after years of not, and why and what those first five, in this case, five criterions were that kickstarted a whole other thing for me. So, real briefly, I used to collect VHSs, DVDs. This is all through the 80s, 90s primarily, and late 2000s or early 2000s. And at some point, I just sort of stopped. Part of it was I had other hobbies. Part of it was Netflix, and Amazon Prime, and all these things were cropping up. But the thing is, even though I have access to, streaming, I don't always like going through my movies that way. Part of it is I just like to have something physical in my hands, but really, there's almost too many options. I'll spend so much time just scrolling through all the available movies, all the available shows, and I just get kind of overwhelmed. So it's nice to just have something looking at you on your shelf and kind of begging out to you, watch me, watch me. So when I got into the Criterion collection, in fact, let me back up a little. I knew about the Criterion collection ahead of time. My dad had mentioned it as sort of like a premier label. And I would occasionally find myself picking up a movie that, turns out to be a Criterion movie. I don't have many of those older ones left. Some of them, I don't know what happened to them. They made their way in and out of my DVD collection. The only one that I have from those days is this one, Chasing Amy from 1997. This is Spine 75. I've had this movie. I probably won't let it go because I do really like Chasing Amy. But I don't think we're ever going to get an upgrade to this to Blu-ray or anything. We might. It may happen, but this is one of those movies I don't know that I would count on that. So I probably won't let go of this one. But cut to last year, November of 2021. I just got out of a job that I hated. I hated that job so much. I wasn't there terribly long, but I was working 65 hours or more a week sometimes, 13-hour days. And for what? They paid me well, but I was never home. I never saw my wife. I never got to do anything fun because I was either too tired or, nope, got to work another shift. And so, I had just left this job. I was feeling kind of directionless. I was burned out, and I found myself at Barnes & Noble. And there was this nice sign over their Criterion collection that said 50% off. Now I thought, and I don't think I can be, given too much flack for why I thought this, but I thought that because they were 50% off, I thought they were getting rid of them. And I had seen those Criterions on those shelves before. I just didn't peruse them in depth because they were like $40 a piece. I was like, nah, no, I'm good at $40 a piece plus tax. And so, I finally had this opportunity. I was like, okay, I've got some money in my pocket. I need something to just distract me for a little while because, of this job. So I started looking through the movies. And I was like, yeah, I'll pick up a movie at $20. And so this first movie that I decided to pick up was from 1984. It's by Terry Gilliam, and that's Spine Number 51, Brazil. So I've got a little history with Brazil. In fact, a good handful of these movies I got a little bit of history with. Brazil was a movie that I saw at some point. I probably saw it on HBO or somewhere on TV when I was a kid. And there were images from this movie that just stuck with me, just locked into my brain. De Niro sliding down the rope, into the city, those baby face masks, the samurai. These were all things that stuck with me on some level. I didn't know the story because I didn't understand it. I was a kid, but they stuck with me. They were in my brain. They were put in my brain, and they just latched on there. And I would describe these things to people, and they thought I was out of my mind. And so, it wasn't until years later, I was in my early 20s, and I was with my, now ex-girlfriend, and she had the DVD Criterion release. I'm pretty sure it was Criterion. It was like 3 discs. It was a little box set, and maybe it was 2 discs. I'm not sure, but she asked me, "Have you ever seen Brazil?" And I thought, no, I don't think I have. But as we were watching it, suddenly, I was like, I've seen this. I've seen it. These are the things that I've described to people, and they've looked at me like I'm out of my mind. But here it is. And so I knew I had to have this movie again. And so this absolutely is what I consider, despite having Chasing Amy, despite having a couple other movies that have come and gone in my list of DVDs, this I feel is the first Criterion that I picked up. It was the first one I pulled off that shelf, and I haven't looked back since. But this wasn't the only one I picked up this day. I ended up getting 4 more. So it started with Brazil. So I had Brazil in my hand, and I was looking over, I'm like, are there any other Terry Gilliam films? And of course there were. I saw Fisher King, which I love. Had it on, I had a DVD copy, no special features. Wasn't really going to get, I hadn't been drawn into that yet. I had Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Again, DVD. I think there was only like a handful of special features on that. I've since upgraded those 2, but not this day. No. On this day, I saw another movie. And so this movie, I had a friend growing up who, his family were huge movie folks. And they had a wall of VHSs. And one of those movies on there that I always wanted to see was from 1981, Terry Gilliam, and that's Spine 37, that's Time Bandits. Just that name, Time Bandits, that was the first thing that ever drew me to it. I would see that on his wall, in black background, big blocky white letters, Time Bandits. And I was like, who are the Time Bandits? I'd often pull that VHS off of his shelf, and I would just look at it. And I always wanted to watch it. And for some reason, we never did. We watched a lot of horror movies, other science fiction movies. Honestly, it would have fit right in, but I don't know if he didn't like the movie, or, there was just something else that we wanted to watch. I'm not sure what the deal was, but this was it. And so this technically was my first blind buy. Sort of, I kind of knew about it. I knew it's Terry Gilliam. So I knew the pedigree was there, but I didn't really know the movie, and I was excited to find out. And obviously, if you've seen it, particularly if you enjoy it, you know what I'm talking about. And I did enjoy it, and I still enjoy it. And, so that was 2 down. That was 2 in my hand at this point. And I thought, okay, I can leave. But maybe I keep looking. Just see what else is there. Maybe I'll come back another day. And so I'm going over, and I see a few movies from a particular director. And that director is David Cronenberg. And I knew David Cronenberg. I've seen The Fly, not in the collection. Wasn't on the shelf then either. But, I did look for The Fly there. I didn't see it because it's not there. But I saw Scanners, and I'm like, I'm aware of Scanners. And I saw like The Brood, but I had to go with Spine number 248 from 1983, and that's Videodrome. So Videodrome. The color bars, the packaging, even seeing this label and knowing that I'm pretty sure that's a Betamax cassette package that's in there. I knew just packaging alone, I wanted to grab this up. But really what it came down to was my old roommates and I, in my early 20s, my old roommates, one of them borrowed this movie from somebody. And I was notorious for falling asleep during movies, because we would generally start a movie at like 1 a.m, midnight, late. We worked at a movie theater at the time, so, and this was the movie they picked. And so the beginning, it's a little slow pace. It's like, there's a lot of, intrigue. There's a lot of, there's a lot of imagery in the beginning that sort of would draw you in, but I wasn't quite feeling it yet. And I nodded off. And I remember waking up a couple of times and just not knowing what I was looking at and being like, what? What is that? Is that a TV? Are those lips? What is happening? Are those lips? But yeah. And then I fell asleep again. And I would wake up a few random times, not know what the heck was happening. And by the end of it, they were all like discussing it. Not in depth, but just how crazy it was, for lack of a better term. And I was like, what was this movie? And nobody could tell me. And so ever since then, I wanted to see it in full at a reasonable time that I wasn't going to fall asleep. And now I had that chance. And so I had it in this lovely digipack. And that was 3. And so now I was looking at them like, these digipacks are pretty cool. Not going to lie. I like a digipack. That's where the digipack craze started for me. And so I looked to see what other digipacks are. And there was a substantial amount. And so the one that jumped out at me, though, was one that I had seen, sort of, but in English, which was not the native language of this movie. I worked at a comic book store, and we had a whole collection of these movies. And, you might be able to guess, but that is 1954 by Ishiro Honda. Spine 594, Godzilla. Now, this was also obviously before I realized that there was the large number 1000 release of the Showa era Godzilla films. But that's okay. And I actually don't regret having this, even though I would like that collection at some point. I'd still not get rid of this. A, it's got that lovely digipack packaging. But B, it's the one that started it all. Like I could get that collection, but there's something special about this, especially because the movie came out, when Japan was still dealing with the fallout, literally, from World War II, dealing with everything that had happened, and they were rediscovering their identity. And this ended up being a big part of it, and ended up being something that they just shared with the world. This made a huge impact on cinema. This movie right here. I mean, we had King Kong, but this was just something different. And, that I again, had to have it. I knew I had to have it. And now I did. And now I had 4. And I thought 4 is pretty good. It's under $100. Not bad. And then something caught my eye. Obviously, something had. This is the first 5 Criterions. And this was a movie that I had only heard about. I only knew by reputation. I did not know the plot. I knew nothing about the director. None of that. The only and I had initially heard about this movie from, if anyone's aware of it, Welcome to the Basement with Matt and Craig. It's one of the Blame Society shows. all he said about this movie was, don't look into it. Just watch it. If you have a chance to just watch it, watch it. You know, whether it's streaming, whether you have to pick it up somewhere, just watch it. You know, it's not a movie that can really be just, you know, described. It's just experienced. And that is from 1977, Spy Number 539, and that's Nobuhiko Obayashi's House, or Hausu, if you prefer. And I stood there holding this like, do I get it? The movie's literally looking back at me. Do I get this movie? And yeah, picked it up. And I'm not going to go into too much depth about it now. I'd like to do so later at some point. But this movie struck me in a way because, and I think there's multiple ways you can look at this, good or bad, but the characters are more archetypal characters. It's almost like a fairy tale because they fulfill certain roles, right, in the movie. You know, that like the characters are not named, you know. So I won't speak too much about this movie because, yes, you do just need to go in and experience it. Just go in. Just go in blind. This is a well-worthy, like, this is well worth your time as a blind buy. And if you do know something about it, I won't ruin anything for you if you don't know too much, but check it out. And so I had this movie. So I had movies I hadn't seen, movies I had seen, and, you know, I was very excited to start, you know, building this collection, and I did. And so back in November of 2021, I started with these 5 films. And now, with Criterion alone, I have nearly 100 releases in my collection. I'll do a collection release at some point, like a collection video, but not today. Probably not even soon, because I'm still curating, you know, I'm still building, and there's always more stuff coming out. And so I've got some ideas for how I want to show off my collection, but we're not there yet. But that's it. Those were my 5. Those are the first 5 Criterions. And since then, I've picked up Arrow videos. I've picked up some A23, you know, like exclusives. I've, you know, got some Shout Factory in there, and I've actually got a box of Vinegar Syndrome coming. You know, I'm kind of stuck in it now. Stuck in it. So it's physical media now for me. Not to say I won't ever stream anything. That'd be ridiculous. You know, because there's some movies I'll always be on the fence on. And if I can find it streaming, I'll probably go that route. But at this point in my age, I know myself pretty well. You know, I know what I like. I don't put too many expectations on movies anymore. I'm a firm believer in you are in more control of your own enjoyment than you think. You know, whether you or not you think a movie is good or bad, part of that enjoyment is on you. It's, you know, partly your responsibility, I believe. And so I don't know where I'm going with that. I really don't. It's a weird way to end a video. Sorry. But tell you what, if you liked it, give this video a like. And if you have a collection and you want to tell me about your first videos, be really glad to hear them. So feel free to put those down in the comments below. Give this video a like, and if you want, subscribe. I'm going to be trying to do videos as I think of them and topics that I want to talk about in the moment. So thank you for joining me. This has been Alex at Make It Good. See you next time.